Not many of our listeners do know Cradle of Filth. Perhaps you can start with a little introduction and introduce yourself.
I'm Danny from Cradle of Filth, and I sing. This is Damien, the keyboardist, and Gothic organ, cobwebbed organ. This is John, guitars. Well, we've been together for about 4 years. Of that, a year and a half we were a demo band. Did 3 demos. First album, Principle of Evil, My Flesh, came out in Easter '94. The second album was delayed because we were in litigation with our record company. But the second album came out at the beginning of this year, and now we're waiting the third album, which is called Dusk and Her Embrace, and is out on the 18th, I believe.
Why did you change the labels from Cacophonous to Nuclear Blast? Have there been any changes until now?
There's one big change. We're not on Nuclear Blast. No, we're not on Nuclear Blast. We're on Music for Nations. We were at one point considering signing to Nuclear Blast, but nothing was ever concrete. And we moved to Cacophonous because they didn't pay us. They're a shit label. They don't pay for any of their bands. They do little in the way of promotion. They're only in it for the money, and they don't know how to handle bands of any caliber. And therefore, we moved from them because we basically went to court and won the rights back to just fucking off their label.
Why do you start a tour while the new album isn't available now?
Why? Well, because it was booked that way.
Yeah, the record was put back 2 weeks because of some delays with finishing the recording, and the tour was already booked, so we sort of had to start it, and it's only like four or 5 days, so it really doesn't make any difference, you know. It wasn't a deliberate decision, so you can't ask us why we did it, because we didn't have any choice.
Who came up with the idea to get Opeth for the support slot?
Oh, that was all my idea.
Our manager just got in contact with him.
For the tour, a subtle blend of avant-garde and the strange.
I heard that former Brutality guitarist Brian Hipp has been in the band for some time.
He was only in the band for about 2 or 3 months. It didn't work out because he lives in Germany, you know, and we live in England. And he had to undergo a leg operation, which meant he couldn't walk for a few months, so it kind of didn't work out, but we're still friends with him and that, and he's a pretty cool guy.
Lyrically and visually, Cradle of Filth seems to stand image-wise for perversion, erotic and vampirism. Would you explain this image?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can relate this to the artwork on the albums. The albums obviously portray, as you put them, a perverse, erotic and vampiric image. The covers are like sort of beautiful versions of adversity. There's a lot of different symbolism in them, and we're heterosexual. That's why the use of women is portrayed. Well, it probably stems just from the influences that become part of the band. We listen to a lot of classical music and soundtracks, especially, and we read a lot of literature and we watch a lot of films. But it's obviously of this vein, the gothic and erotic vein. So it tends to come through in the music.
Does the new album hit the same direction, or what changed?
It's like, you know, how can I explain it? It's like when something is growing and expanding, like the farther it goes, the wider it gets, like up into a sort of a cloud of light. It's all the elements that were there, like even when Cradle of Filth were a demo band, some of those elements were expanded on the first album, and then those were expanded further with the next record, and just keep adding things like building blocks as you go along. So it's not been a decision to change anything, it's just been stretching the ideas a bit farther.
Through your admiring of vampirism, you must be very interested in Dracula films. What do you think is the best one, and why?
Everyone's got like probably a different opinion. Mine would be the what was his name who directed it? Terence Fisher, 1958. Yeah. That the Hammer version of Dracula, 1958 one, is probably my favourite. But there's been quite a few good ones, and there's been a lot.
The lead debut did.
Yeah.
The Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein when Bela Lugosi pops up.
Hitting the Pendulum, Edgar Allan Poe.
It's not that powerful, is it?
No, but it's good. And evokes the same kind of Luciferian imagery.
And we watched it up at the studio.
Yeah.
Kronos of Venom contributed something to your new album. Can you tell us what he did and how you get the connection to him?
Yeah, he played the drums.
And he played him better than Tony Bray with one arm. The connection, well, we were friends with him for a long time. Damien here wrote the notes, the sleeve notes for In Memoriam, and we just asked him if he'd come down to the studio when we were up in Birmingham, and basically he did, and got very pissed. He's definitely the same kind of character you can always imagine him to be, even now. He doesn't seem to have aged, just receded.
He kind of liked the band as well.
I mean, obviously they're regarded as our mentors because black metal started in the British Isles. Period.
What do you think of today's black metal scene, and have you any favorite bands?
Emperor.
Bewitched are quite cool. Bewitched?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Therion. Yeah, Therion.
Emperor. No, I think they're even...
Arcturus are quite cool.
Most of them are not even like black metal bands.
No, we don't really... I don't like associating things with black metal. Because it just conjures up an image of people standing around with shitty scythes and mowing their mum's lawns and painting their face like panda bears and just basically looking shit.
Most of those bands that we mentioned are either
Nordic raccoon metal.
either started out a few years ago, or the people that are involved with them had like roots that were a few years old. So if you're talking about bands that are coming out like this week and calling themselves black metal, then the vast majority of them are fairly lame. They don't really have any new ideas to offer. It's just rehashing the cast off bits of what's gone before.
Music that excites us sexually.
Yeah, that's it, definitely.
Any sort of strain of music. The soundtracks are a lot better, I think, than black metal albums for evoking certain atmospheres.
And we listen to like
Much more funereal.
We listen to traditional metal as well, and other stuff.
German thrash metal.
Yeah, the thrash and stuff. Iron Maiden.
Exuma.
As Dan said, still today, lots of classical, like really original. I mean, Gothic music sounds amazing when it's coming from a live orchestra, and all forms of music should basically, end of the day, stir the emotions, be it hatred, sorrow, love even.
You use 3 or more different styles of vocals on your LPs. Isn't it difficult to switch between these styles while playing live?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you scream something for us into the microphone in these styles?
No.
And now a question we ask every of our interview partners. Our show is called What's Metal, and what does metal mean to you? Is it a lifestyle or just music?
Metal. I suppose it is. It's been a lifestyle ever since. When you get into it, you find it very hard to break free of its tyrannous bonds. No, metal is something, if you get into, that you rarely get out of.
We got into it when we was, quite young. When I was like, 9 or 10.
Circa Ghost Rider and Pile Driver and Razor and bands like that. Obviously stemming from the new wave of British heavy metal.
It's the music we've been into for I'd say all of our lives. Because we got into it at an early age and stuff.
The basic answer to your question is yes, of course it's more than just music, otherwise we wouldn't be here now. We'd be sat at home listening to an album and wondering what we were going to do tomorrow at the bank when we got in.
On your photos of the band, you can't see the typical face painting you used until now. Will it be possible to see Cradle of Filth in the future unmasked?
It was just a conscious decision. I mean, it's a progression. The album itself, musically, lyrically, artistically, on the whole, is a progression, and so therefore the imagery had to progress as well. It had to sort of break the bonds of that stereotypical Norwegian face painting. Not that there's anything bad with it, it's just that at times it becomes less than terrifying. We just want to accentuate perhaps our natural features a little more.
It happened on I can't remember. It's just one specific occasion that springs to mind when it actually happened was a photo shoot that we went to do, and we just found ourselves suddenly not having the makeup on the normal way. It was just done differently, and we just went ahead with it and didn't think too much about it. Then when we looked at the photos again, we liked it. So
You think it looks cool?
yeah, it wasn't a master plan to change. It was just like something else that happened, and we thought it looked good.
You know, a message to the Dutch listeners, yeah. Bearing in mind, evil or good, at the end of the day, skunk weed fucks the hell out of you, man. It's brilliant.
Is there anything you want to tell our listeners?
Okay, just get yourself a TV.
A little bit more about the new album, I suppose. Starting with Rob. Rob, tell us a little bit about the new album from a bass player's perspective.
Buy the album on the 18th.
Yeah, it's
Buy 2 copies each.
It's definitely the production is spot on. It's a really wide production, enabling the soundtrack quality we were trying to create come to the fore. Yeah, it's definitely a lot bigger, a lot more grandiose.
And more orchestral. Yeah, the elements of the theatre have been greatly amplified within this ever-expanding concept. Because if you look at, say, a play a few hundred years ago, like, say, during the Renaissance times or something, the poor and the rich would get together and, they'd be visually stunned by this thing. And now you get musicians that just come on stage, sometimes with just jeans and a t-shirt on, and it looks like they've just walked off the street. If you're going to play the music, why not
Play it with passion.
Yes, we're all channelers.
It's a complete visual and sonic assault.
Perhaps any one of you wants any song in our show?
Yeah, Night of the Unborn by Merciful Fate, please.
We can do this.
We've got Eve of the War on the War of the Worlds soundtrack.
Red London's more doomy, that's cool. That's when London's been wiped to fuck by these machines, and the crows are just picking at their flesh.
It's Eve of the War.
Eve of the War, don't hit me, don't hit me.
It is Eve of the War.
Yeah, let's not have any more of your shit.
Yeah, play Behind the
Blasphemer.
Crooked Cross by Sabat.
Blasphemer by Sodom.
And play everything by Venom, back to back.
Over a marathon 24-hour stint.
And then just to top it up, some Diamanda Gallus,
Have you got? Has anybody got a copy of the album they can give them? Nick, ask Nick. Nick's got a dozen promos with him.
Was he?
How did you get to this type of music? What type of music did you listen before when you were young? Or?
From about the age of 12 or 13, got into metal, and I suppose majority of the time it was going through listening to extreme hardcore, like the English stuff and the American stuff, and then through thrash metal, typical things though, really, I suppose. So bands like Sabat and Tankard and Christ, Exuma and Possessed, all the classic fucking thrash metal. Just anything that had real passion in it, and so listen to a lot of goth music as well, and as we said, orchestral music and soundtracks. And if you really, make an effort to have a destiny in music, then that's how you arrive at playing this sort of rubbish.
Yeah, who's responsible for that?
Well, they're not going to know. It's the promoter, obviously. It's the guy at the venue who was telling me. He said he lifted it.
In case you're wondering, while these lot are waffling on, we're referring to a poster advertising this gig tonight. It's a picture of our bass player, Rob, looking like he's just crawling out of the womb of hell itself.
I said it looks like he's in the thing, yeah? And something's about to burst out of his head.
Okay, final question. How do you see the future of Cradle of Filth?
Well, initially we've got to try and survive this tour, and if we're not dead by the end of it, then yeah. We're going to move on to producing our Selfie video, which is going to be a completely new track. Then we're going to start writing some more material for our 4th album, and then we're going to go back on tour at the beginning of next year, so pretty busy. Sickening almost. Nauseating. Suicide. We're closer to suicide than